As we are just about to start the 2018 Cardiff Half Marathon, I'm going to hand you over now into the very capable hands and dulcet tones of the most famous Paralympian of Wales, Baroness Tanni Grey-Thompson and Rob Walker. Take it away, guys.
What a stirring anthem. Enough to make the hairs on the back of your neck stand to attention. And now the countdown to the rest of the race is on. We have some world-class wheelchair athletes already out on the course, and now come the turn of the able-bodied men and women battling for this inaugural Commonwealth title. There's Doreen Chisang, former Commonwealth Youth Games silver medalist. Very good cross-country runner as well, as so many of the Ugandans are. Gemma Steele, former European cross-country champion, won the Glasgow 10K just last weekend. A very good half marathon runner. Juliet Checkwell just missed a medal in the Commonwealth Games over 5,000 metres. Top 10 of the world cross back in 2013. Jenny Nesbitt, a proud Welsh woman, PBs this year over 3,000, 5,000 and 10,000 metres. She's in cracking shape. Timothy Toroitich, African Championship bronze medal this year. Very good run from him. Top 10 of the world cross a few years ago. Jack Rayner, winner of the Gold Coast Half Marathon in July. This will be a challenge on a different level for the Australian. The only Kenyan in the field, one or two had some visa issues. John Loitiang, defending champion, course record holder. Can he once again go inside 61 minutes? And listen to the applause for the multiple Welsh half marathon champion, Dewi Griffiths, back to form, back to fitness, PB over 10 miles just at the end of September. Here we go. The countdown is on. The crowds are ready. The streets of this famous city preparing to greet some of the best half marathon runners in the world. The tension mounts. The last few seconds ticking down. Everybody timing it on their own watches. That will never change for major championship runners.
Into the final few seconds.
Agonising wait here. They're desperate to start, and there are thousands queuing up outside the castle behind them. They're underway. The elite men and women and the masses. This is by far the biggest mass participation distance race in Wales. It's the second biggest half marathon in Britain, behind the Great North Run. From humble origins 15 years ago, there were 1,500 runners, and here this weekend an entire festival of distance running, over 25,000 runners, and it's sold out within just a few months. This is a race, Baroness Tanni Grey-Thompson, that is growing in reputation and stature year on year.
It's an absolutely beautiful sight when you see all the way past the castle and on the overhead shots where it's just a mass of runners waiting to go. And you could feel the tension on the start line there, couldn't you? And everyone waiting to press their watches and as they're going to, you know, get ready. Because this race is a really big deal in Wales. You know, how much it's grown, how much it's developed. It's also about the participation as well. Run for Wales do so much good work in terms of trying to build that base of participation. We've got more women runners than we're having before. We're having more club runners, and that's really good to see. The elite race is important, but it's about everyone else as well.
On the far right of picture there, John Loitiang, the defending champion. What a brilliant performance last year when he ran 60.43, taking, I think, 11 seconds off the pre-existing course record. Jack Rayner's in that group. The best of the Ugandans. That's Vitalis Kwemoy. He ran 28.52 in a 10K earlier this year. Very, very good runner. And we have a team competition here this weekend. 4 are allowed to run from each country, 3 to score. Their times are added together. And in the absence of the rest of the Kenyan field, we only have John Loitiang. The rest, I think, had some visa issues. The Ugandans will be the overwhelming favourite for that team title, and they certainly look as though they're packing well behind Loitiang. who is setting the pace out on his own at the moment. Jack Rayner, the only one staying with the Ugandans who are in pursuit of Lotang in the very early stages of this race. No time for the historical tales of football for these elites. I was mentioning what a top team the Ugandans have. They're the overwhelming favourite for the team title in the absence of the rest of the Kenyans. And interesting, Lochiang, who was leading with by around 20 metres or so for the first mile, has now just decided discretion is the better part of valour. Dewi Griffiths is up in that group, and Dewi seems as though he's coming back to some form and fitness after the disappointment of being in. Leading woman, Juliet Checkwell, just missed a medal in the Commonwealths, 4th in the 5,000, 7th in the 10. A very, very good cross-country runner as well, top 10 in the world back in 2013. But less experienced when it comes to the half marathon, but you can tell by her physique, she's a very tall, powerful-looking woman. She's got a best of 71.46, and she's looking fairly comfortable here in these very early stages.
And I think it's going to be interesting how, in the mixed race, the women are going to use the very strong club running men to kind of protect them through the little windier bits, the more exposed parts of the course. And you see Chackwell there just tucking in behind, not doing any more work than she has to, and just making sure she's as protected as she possibly can. The women are going to have to keep their eyes open that they don't lose other women as they mix in with the men's race as well.
Yes, the rest of the elites may well benefit from this useful pacemaking. That's Phil Matthews, the Swansea Harrier, who's running just in front of Checkwell. This is a good pace by the Ugandan in these very early stages. So Checkwell is leading the women's race for Uganda, and in the men's race we have Kenya, followed by Uganda, 2, 3 and 4. Lochiang once again at the front. That's Vitalis Kwemoy just behind. Timothy Torotic. Watch out as well, going through the biographies, Fred Masobo, who's on the left of picture there, now tucking in behind his compatriot Torotic. He's a very, very good athlete, the 22-year-old. 20th in Valencia. There he is, Masobo. He's a really, really good runner. 4:43 for that first mile. Top 20 of the world half in Valencia, and 9th in the World Junior Cross-Country Championships a few years ago. So the man in 4th place, looking very comfortable. He's a small, compact operator, Masobo. We'll keep a very close eye on how he progresses over the next couple of miles. So many great reasons for running here in Cardiff, and the weather is playing its part. From our commentary position, we can see the beautiful leaves just beginning to turn on the avenues around the grounds of the university. Out on the course, Lochiang still leading from this trio of Ugandans. Only one of them has been dropped. It's Chimonges, 26 in the World Half Marathon Champs. He's off the pace at the moment. Masobo on the left is very, very young, very talented. So they've gone 4:43 and then 4:40. So very consistent miling in the early stages.
And Lotang's just decided that he's going to drop in the back and let the Ugandan athletes take a bit of a turn at the front. He knows the course so well, but he's decided that he doesn't want to push it too hard at this moment. And then dropping back to the second group, Dewi looks like he's just a little bit off the back of that. But he's been in this position before. He didn't get caught up in the race tactics last year. He let them do what they want, and then he started clawing them back in. And I hope the confidence he's got from coming back from his injury helps him feel sort of able to just let them go and not push himself too hard.
There is Dewi, just on the extreme left of picture as they go up this slight incline. Rayner is running quite well. Watch out for Arden as well, the Thames Valley Harrier from England. He went out to do some high altitude training earlier this year before the Great North Run and caught pneumonia. So he feels he's in better shape, the Englishman, than he was for the Great North Run. Dowie has a little bit of ground to make up, but he ran so well last year. He really did. It was a wonderful time, 61.33, a huge personal best. And as Baroness Taddy did indicate, he ran a steady race early on and then picked his way through. So let's keep our fingers crossed the Welshman is able to do the same here. Juliet Checkwell still leading that women's race. Really good running, and she does have the advantage of some good pacemaking being done here. 3 excellent Ugandans, defending champion Lo Chiang in the distinctive Kenyan vest, and Jack Rayner is running well at the moment. He has won 8 races at home in Australia. No disrespect to those victories. This is a test on a different level for the mustachioed Australian. He looks like a 1920s matinee idol.
It's all very fashionable now, running with sort of beards and big hair, and I don't know whether I'm old or just a bit traditional. I just think I'd find it quite irritating.
I'm with you. I couldn't think of anything worse than having a tash, and actually my growth is so slow it would take me about 5 months. The other thing I struggle with these days, Taddy, no socks with shoes. I must just be getting old. You know, when you see young guys going out looking really smart, but they don't wear socks with their shoes.
I know,
anyway.
It's not good.
And the elite men, Dewi Griffiths following that motorbike. Just needs to consolidate his performance here. He looks as though he's working quite hard. He's in around about 7th or 8th. He's had so many good performances in the Cardiff Half. 8th in 2012, 7th in 2013, 6th 3 years ago before that 4th place finish last year. He's won 3 10K races this year, Cardiff, Barry, London, all in under 30 minutes. But I think the most significant stat for Dewi, 47.20, PB over 10 miles at the end of September. He is coming back to something like his best form, but it's a tall order if we're asking him in an injury-interrupted season to replicate that wonderful 61.5 that he produced, just missing out on a podium place last year. We will keep a close eye on how Dewi is progressing behind the phalanx of Ugandans, Jack Rayner and Lo Chiang, the defending champion. That's interesting because the 4th Ugandan, Felix Chimonges, who had drifted off the back of that group, has now rejoined. I'm talking about the man on the left of your picture there. Chimonges ran 61.46 in April this year. As I mentioned at the beginning of our coverage, they're aiming for the inaugural Commonwealth Championship title, but there's a team title as well. And as we can clearly see here, the quality has come from Uganda. Slightly unfortunate that the other world-class Kenyans were not able to make it here to the start line with visa issues, but as far as the team competition is concerned, it's looking very, very good for the Ugandans. Losobo on the right, just 22 years of age. He is in cracking form. I will be fascinated to see how he goes. He just looks very economical, I think.
He does. It's just interesting how they've now all come together. You know, these guys will be training together. They'll know, you know, how they run, they know how they train, they know the pace they want to run at. And this is going to be really difficult for the other two in the pack, because they're going to feel like they're almost being ganged up on. I mean, they're running very carefully, very safely, but knowing that you've got that strength from the Ugandan team around you, it's going to play on your mind at some point.
Watching these great images, Tanny, reminds me of the World Half Marathon Championships that took place here on an almost identical course in 2016. One of the best pieces of distance running I've ever seen was when Jeffrey Kipsang Kamworor defended his World Half title from Copenhagen 2 years previously in brutal conditions and wasn't far away from the world record. I think having the World Half here opened up the Cardiff Half Marathon to a global audience.
it put the city on the map, and I think it's also the quality of the organisation. People might come to do a race once because it looks good on TV or the numbers look good, but they won't come back if the organisation is not good. And you've got to do it for the elite runners, the club runners, some other big half marathons around the world. You know, it's hard for the club runners to get into those events. So this race sort of, it works for everybody. And it's for me, coming from Cardiff and, you know, training here for most of my career, it's wonderful to see a race of this magnitude being in the city. And again, if the course isn't good, if you can't get fast times, people won't come here just for a race. There are so many races out there now that you've got to offer something which is above and beyond anything else.
Well, and the location is absolutely spectacular. It can be quite windy out there. I've certainly had it blowing in my face when I've run the other way across the barrage, staying on the other side of the city, but it's a superb backdrop, it really is. It's a great advert for Cardiff and a great advert for Wales, and that's important because a lot of effort goes into laying on these races, and the organisers need to know that they're attracting more people to the city for holidays as well as to come and run here over the half.
It's also nice to see that there are more and more people out on the course cheering, because this can be quite a lonely part of the course. Previous years when it's been a bit windy or raining, it can be very exposed. And I mean, the city looks stunning. I mean, the athletes won't be looking at anything other than the line right in front of them as they look at their watches and their mile times as they keep going. But it's a lovely race in terms of how it's able just to bring in different people. And here's Dowie again. He's looking a little bit more comfortable than he did probably half a mile ago.
Yes, I think he looks fairly composed here, and it looks as though they're sharing duties, he and Dejen Gebrselassie, not Haile, although he is an expatriated Ethiopian, Dejen Gebrselassie, born to Ethiopian parents, 66th in the World Half in Valencia, and he's run 63.47, so he's not a bad athlete for Dowie to be chasing. If you're trying to get an idea as to where they are, Dowie is just at the left of picture there, right down, see where the clock is, just above the clock in the bottom left-hand corner is Dowie. He's still in the top 10, in 9th at the moment, around about 100 metres or so behind the phalanx of yellow shirts indicating the Ugandans at the front. But Dowie is just obscured there behind Gebrselassie. He just needs to hang on to the Ethiopian who now represents Australia. Juliet Checkwell just starting her journey across the barrage. 71.46. She is relatively inexperienced over the half marathon, in contrast to what she's done on the track and in cross country. Well, she's looking good here. No sign of Phil Matthews. I don't know whether he's up ahead or whether he's dropped back. The Swansea Harrier, want to give him his little moment of fame. Very, very good club runner. He was running alongside the Ugandan.
I think he's dropped back a little bit, but you know, it's the experience of running half marathons, this like kind of level. You need to have done a lot of half marathons to know how to pace yourself. And if she's not, she'll be running on feel. That's how, you know, so many elite athletes do. So she'll want to be trying to kind of stay with other male athletes and try and pick them off if she can. And probably just first couple of miles, you know, starting off within herself before she starts trying to pick it up a bit.
There's a couple of metres growing between Gebrselassie and Dowie Griffiths. I think Gebrselassie in 8th with Dowie in 9th. He just needs to maintain his focus here, the Welshman, who apparently, up until 10 p.m. on Thursday evening, was on the farm with his father, sorting out the silage for the winter. He's an old school runner because he's still very much active in the fields with his dad. He's not someone who has 2 massages a day and has power naps here and there. He's a hard grafter of a runner, is Dowie Griffiths. All the more reason why we like him so much.
And he's always said that that's a really important part of his training, to keep grounded. Actually, some of the work that he does in terms of working on the farm has really benefited his training, and also when he's been injured and been struggling with training, it's given him a break and something else to think about rather than just concentrating on his injury.
Checkwell looks very comfortable at the moment. She's got that lovely long-legged, economical-looking style. The arms moving across the body, as you quite often see with East African distance runners. We'll try and get you an indication as to how big her lead is in this elite women's race at some stage soon.
She went through 4 miles in 2038, but at the moment, I mean, she doesn't look like she's running that hard, does she? I mean, she does have this beautiful running style, and you said very economical. Gives you a bit of an indication as the pedal bikes come past her at the speed that she's running, but at the moment, she looks like she's well clear.
I sometimes think television cameras make it look too easy, because for most averagely fit club runners, that would be almost an eyeballs-out sprint. They'd be keeping up for a few 100 metres, and then they'd start to drift off the back of the pace. Lead men approaching the bay, moving past the famous Norwegian church, where I believe a certain Roald Dahl was christened. 3 Ugandans still leading, with Loy Chiang and the mustachioed 1920s matinee idol Jack Rayner just behind the quartet of East Africans. One of the Ugandans has been dropped. I'll be interested to see whether that's Chimonges, because Chimonges was the first of Ugandans to be dropped and then worked very hard to get back to the leading group. So one of them has become isolated.
Kenyan athletes have dominated this race so much in the 15 years that it's been on, winning 15 out of 16. So I'm sure because they've got the additional, you know, the team that's the Commonwealth race as well, Uganda must feel that they have something to prove in terms of, you know, being here today. You know, we've had so many years where it's been Kenya 1, 2 and 3. It'll be interesting if it becomes Uganda 1, 2 and 3.
That is a really interesting point, because I've been fortunate enough to spend quite a bit of time in Uganda, and it's such a special country. That it's so green, so lush, and there's such a wealth of natural talent which tends to get overlooked, because at the moment it is still the Kenyans and the Ethiopians leading the way in terms of global medals and great performances, but the Ugandans are coming. There's Dowie. I think he's maybe hurting a little bit here, because he's lost ground on Dijen Gebri Selassie, who I think has moved up and alongside Mohamed Arden, the Englishman. Those two are right next to each other up ahead, and these are tough moments for Dowie Griffiths.
The psychology of when you're dropped is really difficult. You only need 1 or 2 metres, and once that happens, it's a real challenge to try and claw your way back. He's, you know, come on so much since his injury, but if you've got people coming from behind you going past you, that's really tough to deal with, especially at this point on the course where you've still got so far to go.
Loy Chiang, the defending champion and course record holder, is once again just beginning to push the pace a little bit, and now 2 of the 4 Ugandans have been dropped. We will keep a very close eye on how this race unfolds, that we're into the second half of the elite race. But back down at City Hall, Lowry is with 1 or 2 others yet to get to this stage. The leading woman is now in the bay, just in the very back of shot, following this group of classy men. And there is Phil Matthews, who've given him a mention once again, the Swansea Harrier, who's moved ahead. We thought maybe he'd drop behind Juliet Checkwell, as she has now been running for 31.5 minutes, almost alongside the Millennium Centre. And she just needs to consolidate here. We were noticing Dowie was running on his own past the centre, and Checkwell also the same. She has no male company at this stage. We've been lucky, touch wood, with the weather today, Tanny. It was a little bit rainy yesterday. This is good. These are, it's cold for us at the finish line in a tent, but this is excellent conditions for distance running.
This is lovely running conditions for distance running. It was about 3 degrees at 7 o'clock this morning, and especially for these guys, you know, they're used to running all conditions, but for the club runners, the guys who are going to be further back the field, that is massively important. You know, a lot of runners like drizzle, but I don't think you could get better conditions at this time of year.
Second, third and fourth place women looking really good for the team double for the Ugandans in second and third. And 51 is Celia Sullivan. She ran really well at the Commonwealth Games, the Australian. 6th in the 10,000, 5th in the 5,000. Hanging on to the two teammates of Juliet Checkwell. But she is a long way clear at the moment. Perhaps she looks as though maybe she's feeling this a little bit. She has a deceptively economical looking style, but I just wonder whether there's a little hint of discomfort, or am I reading too much into her style there? I
mean, it is slightly climbing, but her stride length has shortened quite a bit, and her arms aren't as fluid as they were. So it could be the climb. I wouldn't want to say too much at the minute, because if you see it drop back behind you, but she's not looking as good as she was even half a mile ago. And also just being stuck between the packs is always a challenge.
Steph Twell there. Steph Twell, by the way, representing Scotland now, former European medalist on the track, has delayed her honeymoon. She has married John Morwood, but has delayed her honeymoon to take part in this inaugural Commonwealth Championships, and it looked as though there was a little glimpse there of Jenny Nesbitt towards the back of that shot. And 52 is Casey Wood, the Australian, just running through shots. So the battle for the top 10 is hotting up as far as the women's race is concerned. And these are big gaps now. Timothy Torojtic is arguably the most experienced of the Ugandans here, but Loichiang is loitering. He looks very comfortable in second place there, just behind Torojtic, but Masobo, the 22-year-old Ugandan, still up with that group. And once again, they have dropped Felix Chimonges. Chimonges is in the middle of your picture now. He's the fourth Ugandan. He's not completely blown up, but he has lost 20 or 30 metres or so on the leading five. 3 Ugandans, a Kenyan and an Australian, in the hunt for this inaugural Commonwealth title. So that's 5. Chimonges is in 6th. I believe 7th and 8th will be Arden, the Englishman, and Gabri Selassie. So Dowie Griffiths should still be in 9th, although he's now a long way behind the leading quintet here. The leaders just behind the tree, and here comes Dowie, who is very much isolated at the moment, still in top 10 position at the moment, coming back from injury, going over the Windsor Road Bridge. He really needs to find some of that farmer's grit here, doesn't he, Tanny? These are tough moments for the Welshman.
It is, and this is never where you want to see sort of any Welsh or British athlete being sort of stuck between two packs and looking like they're struggling. And it's moments like these, you know, he's probably thinking a little bit about his injury and where he's come from, and you're just trying to concentrate on putting one foot in front of the other. You know, his shoulders look a little bit tight, you know, and he looks like he's rolling just a little bit, and it's not where you want, you know, Dowie to be in terms of how comfortable he's feeling. But he has got so much grit and determination. You know, he'll keep going. He will be out there doing the best he can, because the Cardiff Half for him is such a big race.
He's been an ever-present for the last 5 or 6 years. Chimonges has been dropped now, I think, 2 or 3 times, and once again he's back in touch. He's the Ugandan on the left of your picture as you look, with Torojtic, who's got that lovely bounding style.
And Jack Rayner just had a bit of a look over his right shoulder there. I mean, he must be sort of quite interested, confused about the way that this sort of pack is coming together and breaking up. It's quite unusual in terms of people, you know, coming back when you think that you've dropped them by actually what looks like a credible distance.
Yes, that's good work from Chimonges, who now has gone to the front. And once or twice, if you look in the far, far distance, you could just about get a little glimpse of Aiden and Gabri Selassie running alongside each other there. It seems so strange just crossing Newport Road. It seems so weird referring to Gabri Selassie because you keep thinking it's Haile, as it was for so many years. I'm sure the name has been handed down from father to son to grandson and will continue to be so. Arguably the greatest distance runner in history, Haile Gabri Selassie. He's raced all over Britain in his highly decorated, illustrious career. Dowie is getting great support. Just over 5 miles to go. 80,000 spectators lining the streets of this great city. And Dowie is going to need all their support.
I think this point of the course will kind of really help him as well, just because there are so many people who'll be cheering him on. It'll give him a bit more confidence.
Such a great city, Cardiff. As I walked down to the start line, I thought I might see a few casualties from a late finish on Saturday, but none were to be found. The only people walking the streets were in their shorts, getting ready for this morning's race. That's certainly not the case after a Six Nations Saturday. That really does make some interesting viewing if you're up early on a Sunday. The leading group here. All 4 Ugandans abreast in front of Lo Jiang, the defending champion, and Jack Rayner, his 22-year-old Australian, hoping to break his lifetime best and add another big achievement to his list. I mean, yes, he's won the Gold Coast half, 40th in the World Cross last year in Kampala in Uganda. They did such a good job of hosting that event. I've been fortunate enough to work on a few editions of the World Cross. Kampala was right up there last year. It was such a good atmosphere. The Ugandans are such wonderful hosts. And Rayner, the Australian just towards the back of that group, ran very, very well in the Independence grounds, coming home inside the top 40. 4:51 for that mile. Remember, we've got a brutal hill just opposite or very close to the cemetery at mile 12. This is great team running from the Ugandans. They've got such strength in cross country. They make fabulous mountain runners as well. Checkwell. It'll be interesting to get an idea as to how big her lead is, because at the last time we got a glimpse of the chasers, we had 2 of her Ugandan compatriots, followed by Celia Sullivan.
I mean, her running style doesn't seem to have changed too much in terms of, she's sort of still looking, you know, like she's sort of running slightly shorter. She was very, very bouncy early on, and maybe this is the point where the legs in her miles are starting to kick in a little bit. But it's interesting that there's more runners behind her. They look like they're male runners from this distance, but they're going to be starting to try and pick her off as well. She's not looking behind at all, though. She seems comfortable in a position she is, but she's not looking to see where anyone else is in the pack.
Ugandan flags flying there. The seesaw effect has happened once again. Masobo is right on the shoulder of Lo Jiang. Torojich is in 3rd and looks like he's working a little bit. Rayner's doing really well to stay with them. Chamonges has been dropped, and so too Kwemoy. And Lo Jiang there veered across to his left-hand side, obviously feeling a little bit annoyed by what was going on alongside him. I thought he was making a little bit of an injection of pace there, Tanny, but all of a sudden he took his foot off the gas, and the other 2 Ugandans are closing once again on this group.
He has done that before, where he's moved back and forth across the road. It looks there like he just wants to have a bit of space and distance between them. Now, interesting how they've almost spread across the road. The tactics of this are really interesting, that they've been running shoulder to shoulder. Jack has decided that he's going to go with Lo Jiang, Rayner, that he's going to try and follow behind him, not sit with the Ugandans. Maybe because they're just dropping up and down a little bit too much for his liking. The pace change might be a bit too tricky for him.
And perhaps he recognises that Lo Jiang, having won the race last year in a course record, knows the most economical route across the streets. Chimonges and Quemoy just going round that corner. It looked a few minutes ago, or maybe a minute and 20, as though they were closing back towards the leading four. But Loy Jiang looked over his shoulder. Masobo, he looks so good, the 22-year-old Ugandan on the right of your picture there. Toroitich, Loy Jiang, Masobo, and Rayner, the Australian, for the first time is allowing a couple of metres to grow. We're getting into the real meat of this race now, aren't we, Tanny?
There was a little bit of injection of pace there, and it doesn't have to be too long. It can only be 8-10 metres pick up in pace, but those kind of changes can really hurt you hard. I know Rayner's looking a bit more uncomfortable than he has at any other point in the race. He must be really happy or delighted, you know, at this point that he's with the pack, but the change in pace must be quite confusing. How much they're moving around the road. They're coming to the water station. That's really important. They get their hydration as well, but it's not comfortable running always, being in a pack that moves around like that.
It is odd the way that Loy Jiang moves from left to right across the road, but he obviously likes having a little bit of clear air around him. Running alongside the wreck.
I've spent many hours training around there.
I can imagine the lactic acid in the shoulders, all the rep sessions you will have done. Dewi Griffiths on his own, still in the top 10, but he's going through a tough patch here. He's having to show all that determination. And if we check his age, Tanny, 27, I really, really hope that Dewi remains at the peak of his powers and has a crack at Birmingham 2022, because when you think about how emphatically he ran last year in this race, he had high hopes of a really good performance on the Gold Coast, and an injury denied him the opportunity. So hopefully at 31, he'd still be, as a distance athlete, he'd still be at the peak of his powers for the next Commonwealth Games.
It can be a very cruel sport, you know, for injury, and just as you think you're going to break through to that next level, something derails you. But, you know, Dewi's confidence has been amazing, and he's... The pressure that he has on him is a lot, but I think that kind of balance with his family life is important as well. And, you know, he wants to come here, he wants to win, he wants to be the best that he can, but he's still got time. In distance running, he has still got time.
And whilst we're mentioning the Commonwealth Games, I'm sure you must have been delighted. The most successful Commonwealth Games in Welsh history. 10 golds, 12 silvers and 14 bronze. Apparently the Welsh team had 10 golds in 1990, but on that occasion in Auckland, there was only a total medal haul of 25. So it's unequivocally the best Commonwealth Games performance in Welsh history. That must have put a real buzz around the whole country and around the city here in Cardiff.
It's huge for such a small nation in terms of, you know, per capita. We win more medals than most other countries. It's hard to top the medal table, but, you know, but for the size of nation we are, we're tremendous across all sports.
And if you add into that mix, Geraint Thomas winning the Tour de France, Mark Williams, world snooker champion. It's been a fabulous year for Welsh sport.
Welsh sport's doing okay. It's going to be a tough choice for Sports Personality of the Year in Wales, which is in December.
That is an interesting battle, actually. Do you go Geraint or do you go Mark Williams? Interesting.
I'm not on the panel. I am really glad it's not my choice to shortlist. It's a nice decision to have, though.
Masobo and Loy Jiang. Grove Park. We're on the eastern side of the lake here, and I'm reliably informed the organisers dug out some stats, so I'm not taking the credit for these, but I mentioned these to you, Tanny, and you didn't know this. Not one, but 2 Welsh women apparently learned to swim in the lake and then went on to become Olympic medalists.
Wow.
Irene Steer took a relay gold way back in Stockholm in 1912, and then taught Valerie Latham to swim in the lake, and she went on to pick up 2 bronze medals in the LA Olympics in 1932. So how about that? Yeah, I don't know what's more impressive about that. The fact that there are 2 Welsh women picking up an Olympic gold and then 2 bronze medals respectively, or that they plied their trade as kids in the lake, which would have been bracing, to say the least.
Sorry, bracing, yeah, that's a really good word. It can be a bit chilly in Cardiff in the winter.
Anyway, just a little bit of Olympic history for you there from the organisers, who were so keen for me to give that information, so hopefully their statisticians will be happy that we've got that away. Right, back to the serious business. Musobo is copying the tactics of Loi Chang, veering left, veering right, using up excess energy. The other two Ugandans, Felix Chimonges and Vitalis Kwemoi, have not become completely isolated from this group. It looks to me as though perhaps they're working their way back towards the leading four, but Musobo has got the bit between his teeth, and the 22-year-old, who ran so well for 20th at the World Half in Valencia at the back end of March this year, he is now the one setting the pace, but there's real quality piling up behind him.
And in previous years, this has been a real make or break point on the course. As you go up the east side, it climbs ever so slightly, and you usually get headwinds, and then as you drop around. Also, I mean, for the runners further back, it's the only point where you can actually see other runners on the course. But it's interesting that they kind of choose this point to really dig in. And I haven't actually seen it in any other half marathon that I've ever watched, how much the runners move back and forth across the road, trying to watch. I don't know what it is about the course or the run, because it's different runners all the time. Loi Chang's always sort of been there, but moving back and forth is just something I've never seen before.
I think he was indicating, Musobo, that he wanted some help at the front, and his compatriot Timothy Torojcic, who's got that very bouncy, distinctive style with the pale blue shoes, he has indeed taken the request of his teammate on board, and he's gone to the front with Loi Chang, the defending champion, just behind him. This is turning out to be a really fascinating race.
And very few of the athletes took on any water at that point as well. This is one of the points that you think that you would be taking on, that last couple of mouthfuls of water to get you through to the finish line. But I guess the athletes don't want to be doing anything that might distract them. Feed stations increasingly over the years have got places where people have tripped and fallen. We've seen it in the London Marathon. Loi Chang's decided, I think, to put another bit of a kick.
They're doing it again. Loi Chang was over towards the right-hand side of the road as we're looking at it. Now he's back over to the left. Musobo has allowed a couple of metres to grow. Jack Rayner's running really well in fourth place, the Australian.
He's just staying out of trouble, isn't he? I mean, that is the smartest thing that Rayner can be doing right now, is just running his own race and staying out of everyone else's way.
And for the historians among you, the Scott Lighthouse, just at the top end of the lake, built in 1915 to commemorate Captain Scott's ill-fated journey in 1910. And somewhere close to there is a scale model of Terra Nova, the Scott Memorial, looking resplendent at the top of the lake. Back on the other side of the lake is Juliet Checkwell. We're not clear at this stage exactly how big her lead is, but she has been out in front on her own, save for the company of one or two classy club runners. 5:25 for her last mile. That's around about 5:25 is around about what, 71-minute pace. So she's operating at a solid pace at the moment.
It just looks like she's sort of digging in, doesn't it? And you see some legs just to the right of shot there, so it looks like she has a little bit of protection around her. That's going to make it much easier for her if she's got some other people to run with. Cardiff runner there, I recognise that vest well. I've worn it many times over the years. This is a nice group for her to be in, actually. A couple of runners just helping pace her, just making her feel nice and comfortable. It's incredible the difference it can make just having someone in front of you.
1:14 is Dan Nash of Cardiff. So Dan Nash keeping the leading elite female company. Hopefully Dan can get himself close to a PB. Past the Rose Gardens now. Ornamental Gardens. And now coming back under the A48. A little under 2 miles to go. We really are at the business end of this great race now. The biggest, the best half marathon in Wales, and the second biggest in Great Britain. £2.5 million being raised by various charities. We'll get on to that in more detail later. This is the battle for the elites, and this is Dewi Griffiths, the best Welsh half marathon runner in recent years. And by the way, as part of my research, there are 3 former male Welsh world record holders at the half marathon. George Dunning back in 1881, Stamford Bridge. And then in more recent history, the brilliant cross-country runner Tony Simmons set a world record at Welwyn Garden City in June 1978. And then the legendary Steve Jones. Apparently, after 6 pints of cider at his mate's wedding, he went out the following morning in Birmingham on the 11th of August in 85 and ran 61:14. That's not bad after nearly a gallon of top quality cider. Steve Jones was a real legend of distance running. He did it the hard way.
I love your facts. This is absolutely brilliant. Now, they've spread out again, haven't they? And this is Fair Oak Road. This is the big hill. I mean, it's the toughest, I think, climb on the course. It's short and sharp and it's hard. And as you come up and sort of up and over the railway bridge, it looks like it's kind of sorting a few people out, actually. It's quite deceptive. It
really is, Tanny, because the defending champion, Loy Cheng, has been dropped for the first time. He's in 4th. 4:38 that mile, and by the way, this was the stage at which Geoffrey Kipsang Camberraw, running into the teeth of a gale, being lashed with heavy rain, this was the point at which he pulled away for his great World Half Marathon victory here in Cardiff 2 years ago. It's a famous hill and it always plays a role in these races, and it's doing so again here. But look how smooth Masobo looks in the lead with Torojic behind him and Jack Rayner. This could end up being the best run of his career. It really could. I thought by this stage he'd have been blown out the back by the rest of the East Africans. The Australians doing really well to stay with this.
Rayner's doing an incredible job, just staying out of trouble, doing his own thing. I mean, the race drops down here, and this is not the point on a half marathon when you want it to be climbing and dropping. And the finish line comes upon you really, really quickly, because as you run round towards the museum, you know, we're Cathays Terrace, we're inside the last mile, and as you make that final left turn, the finish line is in front of you. So you don't have much time to prepare if you're thinking of going for a sprint finish.
We have the youngster, Fred Masobo, leading with his older compatriot, Timothy Torojic, just behind him. Torojic is the African Championship 10,000 metre bronze medalist. He's been around at the top of the world for much longer than his younger compatriot. He's bouncing along, looking across at Masobo, the 26-year-old. Top 10 in the world cross in Kampala. He's waving Masobo on. He's saying, come on, let's share the pacemaking duties. Torojic trying to boss things. And look at Rayner coming up now. I thought Rayner maybe had settled for 3rd, but he's decided to go for it, and Torojic has already been broken. So the Ugandan who was setting the pace and waving Masobo through, he's gone, and we've got Rayner making a bid bold for glory with only Masobo staying with him at the moment.
I wasn't expecting Rayner to make the break at this point. He didn't look like he was going to be in that kind of position. He looked like he was comfortable in the pack. But to kick at this point and to really go for it, it shows a lot of confidence. And the fact he's been very comfortable as he's been watching the other athletes, you know, sometimes mess around a little bit on the course as well.
That's a great point, Tanny, because we didn't see him veering left and right at all. And Torojic has been completely dropped by the other two. And it's only Masobo who's just about hanging on for company at the moment. What a run this is by the 22-year-old Jack Rayner. Rayner won the Gold Coast Half Marathon in July. He's won 8 races in total in Australia this year, set a PB over 12K in September. He's pulling away.
And this is up and over the railway bridge. I love to see this brave attempt to go from this far out. He's just decided he's going to go for it. He's putting everything into it. Quite a tough downhill here, because you don't want your legs to be running away from you too much. It's easy to almost fall over your legs, but once he committed, that's it. He's going for a quick look to behind. He's got a gap, but it's not all there yet.
This is a fantastic run from the young Australian Jack Rayner. They've produced some wonderful distance runners over the years. Rob Di Castella, the two-time Commonwealth Marathon champion. Mike Shelley did the double in Glasgow and on the Gold Coast. Steve Monaghetti, a World Championship bronze medalist. He follows in a long line of great Australian men on the roads, and he's celebrating and waving to the crowd. He's going to absolutely smash his personal best. Very, very close to 61 minutes. This has been the performance of a lifetime from the 22-year-old mustachioed Jack Rayner. He looks like a 20s matinee idol, and he's had the last line in this film today. Rayner takes it inside 61 minutes. What a performance. Fred Masobo comes home for second. He too breaking his lifetime best. And Timothy Torojic bouncing along, the track specialist. He completes the podium. Another PB for him as well. And the defending champion, John Luijiang. It's not a bad performance at 61.23, but he's off the podium this time. What a story, and what a run from Jack Rayner. That was brilliant. Chamonges coming home, and he'll be followed back by Quemoy. They have smashed the team title, so they will be taking a gold in that competition. But the individual champion is Jack Rayner, the 22-year-old. What a run, Tanny.
Absolutely fantastic. I mean, he was on the list of ones to watch, but even to the sort of 10, 11 miles, you wouldn't be thinking he was in that kind of position. Brave sprint finish, and a little smile for him as we have Adan from England just coming around the final turn to the finish line.
A lot of people are very much looking forward to what Mohamed Adan, the Thames Valley Harrier, can produce. He had a couple of days in hospital after 3 weeks of pneumonia after high altitude training. This is a solid performance from him. PB of 62.34. Set that in the World Half in Valencia, and still looks reasonably full of running here. That will be a PB for him as well. Followed home by Dijen Gebri Selassie, yet another PB. He's never broken 63 minutes, and a wry smile on the face of Dewi Griffiths. He's still on his way back to full health and fitness. He's done his country proud. He's shown some real grit here. Not where he wanted to finish, but there's no disgrace with top 10 and inside 63 minutes. Dowie will be back once again. Not quite as good as last year, but that was a solid run.
You see there just how much that run is taken out of Dowie. You know, I mean, that is tough. When you collapse to your knees and you're breathing like that, he has given absolutely everything he could in this race today. Well done, Dowie. Not the result he wanted or we wanted, but an incredible run.
Magnificent run from Jack Rayner, and an excellent run so far here by Juliet Checkwell. That's Dan Nash of Cardiff wearing 114 running alongside her, doing a good job of giving her someone to chase here. 5:25 for that latest mile. A hatful of PBs for the first few men across the line, including our winner from Australia, and I wonder whether Checkwell can hang on for a personal best. She's gone inside 72 minutes, but she's arguably less experienced over the half marathon than she is on the country and on the track.
In situations like this, the personal best is not always what you're trying to go for. It's fantastic when you do it, but every half marathon course is so different. You can only run with the conditions that you have, and looks like we're just dropping back to second place. This is where you see the climb, and this is where it breaks you on the race, because it's really hard.
This is brutal. We're pretty sure this is Celia Sullivan, who's in second place here. She's really having to work up that incline, and it is severe.
You see just how her arms are driving. You know, her elbows are so far out. It's almost like she's going through sand in terms of her trying to get up a hill. And she knows she has to get up that hill first and put enough of a gap on the athlete behind her to be able to get up and over. That is tough, tough running.
She's really working here, edging towards the finish line. Her listed PB is 77.26, but we know she's better than that. She has previously won the Melbourne Marathon, 5th in the Gold Coast Marathon, just earlier this year in July. Checkwell still looking very focused. The head's not rolling yet. Less than half a mile to go. She looks as though she's got this. 66, just coming up to 67 minutes of running. Good work here by Dan Nash. He's getting his moment to shine. I think his mates might buy him a pint later for the amount of television time he's had here, live on BBC Wales.
It'll certainly push him on a bit as well, knowing that knowing you're running with the women's winner is always good, but he'll want to have a good performance for himself too.
Oh, she's led almost from start to finish, Checkwell. There's Chebet, running in 4th place at the moment. Good pack performance by the Ugandans.
And they're going to be strong on the women's team event as well. It really feels that they've brought enough runners to be able to compete for the team event. Although in sort of previous years and previous championships, the team event has not always got the profile. I think that's something we're going to see coming more and more. We're going to see it at Commonwealth Games. I think we're going to start seeing it at Olympics as well. That they're going to be. We're seeing it in triathlon. I think we're going to see more team events. It's a way of also attracting more athletes in terms of getting them onto the start line in terms of participation.
I really like the team event because it gives you something else to focus on. If, for instance, you've got one athlete miles clear individually, there's still plenty of other intrigue going on in the race.
And you can all contribute as well, which I think is really important. It's not just about the first 3 individual runners, it's about everyone else. This is the tough part of the course. This is where it's up and over the railway bridge. The course stop, it's really quick coming down here. And you're just about to come into the final turn. Quick glance across the shoulder, just checking. I wonder if they've been having a little bit of a chat to each other. You sometimes see that. A lot of the men who are running at this level don't go above and beyond helping women, but they're conscious that they're there, that they're sort of contributing towards their performance. It'd be interesting they've had a little discussion about the pace they're running at.
There's usually a nice embrace when you get a very, very good club runner running alongside a world-class female elite. Dan Nash has played his part, but for now let's focus on this wonderful performance from Juliet Checkwell. She's going to run inside 70 minutes for the first time, taking this Cardiff Cardiff Half Marathon title in 2018, the 15th edition of this race, but this is the inaugural Commonwealth title as well, and it goes to Juliet Checkwell. A huge PB and a wonderful performance. She was bold, she was brave, and she virtually led from start to finish.
Absolutely brilliant.
She's bouncing around after running 13 miles. She's bouncing at the finish line. Oh, this looks tough coming down here. This looks really hard.
Contrast the technique from Juliet Checkwell to Celia Sulahern, where the knees are coming across from left to right, and she's almost fighting through the air with those left and right arms, but she's doing so to good effect. This is an excellent run from the Australian, who is going to annihilate her personal best. It might look laboured, but it's been effective.
When it comes to it, it doesn't matter what the running style looks like. Do you see that, though? Another glance over shows she doesn't know that she's got second place yet. She's not feeling confident enough. She's certainly not celebrating in any way like Rainer was as she's approaching the finish line. This looks tough. I've rarely seen a runner look this tough when they're approaching the finish line. She's going to be delighted. Second place finish. Incredible performance for her.
Good performance on the track at the Commonwealth Games on home soil back in April. 5th in the 5,000 metres. She will pick up the silver medal here in Cardiff. Massive PB for Celia Sulahern. And the bronze to Doreen Chesang. 25th in last year's World Cross Country Championships. What a great day it's been for the Ugandans. They've taken the team title in the men's race. It looks as though they've taken the team title in the women's race. No doubting their individual winner, Juliet Checkwell, and she is at the finish with Lowry.
Inspired. Well, the elite field finished just, well, about 45, 50 minutes ago, most of them. And of course, it was the first ever Commonwealth Half Marathon Championship, and it was quite a race.
Well, it was a great sense of anticipation and expectation outside Cardiff Castle. A really good move from Jack Rayner, the Australian. Dowie Griffiths was struggling in the early stages of the race. He ended up isolated on his own, but still came home inside the top 10. When Rayner made his move, nobody could find the answer, not even Fred Masobo. The mustachioed Rayner coming home way inside his personal best for the most important victory of his young career so far. Just a shade outside 61 minutes, and Dowie Griffiths well inside the top 10. He'll produce more next year for certain. Confirmation of Jack Rayner's victory, following in the able footsteps of the likes of Rob de Castella, the famous Australian distance runner. Masobo and Toroitich completed the podium. Dowie inside the top 10. Not too bad at all, 63.5 minutes as he battles his way back to full fitness from injury earlier this year. A very intriguing men's race. We didn't know Rayner was going to win until very close to the end, but as far as the women's race was concerned, it was an almost solo push from Juliet Checkwell, the young woman who only just missed a medal at the Commonwealth Games over 5,000 metres. She had a few useful pacemakers, including Dan Nash, running for Cardiff. And Juliet came home. Victory for her and Uganda. The first time she'd run inside 70 minutes, and she was absolutely delighted. A wonderful day for the Ugandan team. They picked up third as well. Doreen Chisang, sandwiched in between the two. Celia Sulahern, the hard-working Australian, coming home just outside 71 minutes. Fine performance from her. Tracy Barlow, the top of the home nations, coming home in fifth, 72.17. Well, we knew that the Kenyans had a few visa issues. They were the outstanding favourites for the team titles. Uganda taking both titles, Australia getting second, England third, and the Welsh teams were fourth in both the men's and women's races.